Welcome to another in our series of Kehillat Israel podcasts. This is a recording of Rabbi Amy Bernstein's weekly Friday morning Torah study.
We are continuing in the book of Exodus. We're at Parshat Yitro. We are at the Parsha that has a lot of stuff in it, including Revelation. So this is the Parsha where we receive Torah. We've studied it in lots of different ways over the years. And we've been looking at these texts, both Genesis and Exodus, through the lens of Dr. Leon Kass. The book on Exodus is called Founding God's Nation. And so that we're gonna continue with our understanding of what's going on with this set of texts and this people, the way we've been looking at it through his wisdom lens. He reads these texts as wisdom texts. And what's been nice for me in studying it through his way of looking at these texts is that he actually doesn't use, which I didn't quite realize till I listened to one of his lectures the other day, that you'll notice he doesn't use midrash. He doesn't use commentary. He doesn't rely on the midrashic tradition to unpack these texts. His approach to Torah is that these texts stand on their own, that they are to be read like a book, and just the way you would open a book and have it be what it is and have you learn and experience what you do from it, that's, for him, how he reads Torah. So it's not that he doesn't know the midrashic tradition. It's that unlike someone like Zornberg, who's constantly pulling from the midrashic tradition, he's really wanting to approach it at the pshat, at kind of here's what the text says, and what does that come to teach us about life, right? About how we're supposed to live, about what it means to be a people, about what it means to be in relationship to something bigger than us, what it means to be in relationship to each other. And in that sense, it's been refreshing for me to step back and just look at the text. Y'all know how much I love Midrash. You know how much I love Talmud. You know how much I love, all the rabbit holes the rabbis go down. It's been very refreshing to just look at the text and the story as we have it for what it means for us right now, today. When we're dealing with Revelation, we tend to talk about it as dealing with the giving of the law. And I got to tell you, right now, I'm feeling deeply attached to being a society that is ruled by law. I'm feeling very good about that's how we understand ourselves, that we are one of the first societies to have a law code, right, that tells us how we're supposed to behave with each other. What Cass helped me really appreciate this year is that often you've heard me compare this to the code of Hammurabi. You've heard me talk about the ancient Near Eastern law codes, how covenant was made between a conquering king and the vassal king. We've talked about all of the comparisons that we have from the language of Torah, of Brit, of covenant, of treaty, of law, from other examples in the ancient Near East. What Cass really helped me appreciate this year is that the code, even the code of Hammurabi, which is a similar ancient Near Eastern law code to some of what we have, I didn't really think about the fact that it was 3 different law codes. One for nobility, one for regular people, the commoner, and one for slaves. So even with our closest comparison texts in the ancient Near East, they're not all for one status. There's different laws and different groups of laws for different positions in society. Harvey, the name of the book is Founding God's Nation. And that is, we've always known that it was radical, that this is given to everybody, not just the priests, right? That in the ancient Near East, the priests are the ones that had control of the ritual law. They knew the rituals. They knew all that stuff. The people did not. It's always been radical for us that it's everyone at Sinai. I don't think I really realized, though, how revolutionary it is in the neighborhood. That there is a law given to a people, and they are just now learning, he reminds us, they're just now learning they're going to be a people. They don't know that. We know that. So we take it for granted. But they're just hearing now that they're going to be a people, like other peoples. They've been slaves. They've been at the bottom of the heap with no understanding of obligations to anything bigger than Pharaoh or their immediate overseer. They're being told now at Sinai that they're going to be a nation like other nations, but with a unique relationship to each other and to God, because what? They are now going to be in a covenantal relationship. If they agree, they have to agree. It has to be something they voluntarily accept. And if they do, they will be an Am Kadosh. They will be Am Segula. They will be a treasured people. They will be in special relationship forever to the God who delivered them out of slavery, founding God's nation. Thank you. Okay? We together so far on everything? Bruce, you with me? Okay, very good. All right, so Cass also points to how this whole business of Brit, of covenant, gets introduced, and that's in Exodus 19. What we usually consider kind of the preamble to the big juicy thing, which is the revelation. But let's look at how this whole business gets set up for them. In the third month of the Israelites having gone out of Egypt, by Yom Hazeh ba'u midbar Sinai. On that very day, they entered the wilderness of Sinai. But what does the Hebrew say? By Yom Hazeh, what does that mean? Yom Hazeh, exactly, Bert. It means today, right? So to veer off into the Midrashic tradition for just a second, right? Today, the rabbis say it's every day. This happens every single day. Will we hear? Will we listen to the voice coming out from Sinai? Okay. So they journeyed Merifidim, from Refidim, Vayavo Midbar Sinai, and they come to the Midbar Sin. They come to the wilderness of Sinai. Vayachanu Bamidbar, and they camped in the wilderness, and they camped Neged Hahar, across from the mountain, facing the mountain. Umoshe Allah El Elohim, and Moshe went up to God. Now, what's interesting is Vayikra Elav Adonai Min Hahar, and Yud He Vav He calls to him from the mountain. But what's interesting to me is that God doesn't call first. Like, what would make sense is God called to Moshe, and Moshe goes up the mountain. But if we pay close attention to the story, it's Moshe Allah El Elohim. Moshe goes up to Elohim, and Yud He Vav He calls to him out of the mountain. Okay? Saying, hey, Luna, Ko Tomar Levet Yaakov, Vataged Livnei Israel. Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and you shall declare to the descendants of Israel. What is Moshe to declare to them? Atem re'item asher asiti lemitzrayim, and this is God speaking in the first person. What you're going to say to them is, y'all have seen what I did to Egypt and how I brought you on kanfei nisharim, on the wings of vultures, and brought you to me. Ve'atza, and now, im shamoa tishma'u b'koli, if you listen, if you hearken to my voice, ushmartem et briti, and you keep my covenant, vihitem li segula mikol ha'amim ki li kol ha'aretz. If y'all do that, then y'all will be to me segula, treasured, a treasured thing from all of the nations, because all of the earth is mine. And y'all will be to me mamlechet kohanim, a kingdom of priests, v'goy kadosh, and a sacred, a kadosh people. Eile hadvarim asher tidaber al bnei Yisrael. This is what you will say to bnei Yisrael, to the descendants of Israel. Okay. We always just take that for granted. This is the preamble, and then we get to the big, exciting stuff that happens. Cass points out, think about how incredibly radical this is. That Moshe's going to come down to this ragtag group of newly freed peons and say that the God of everything, of all the world, not just of Egypt, Pharaoh's the God of Egypt, right? But not just the gods of Egypt, the God of everything that just did all these amazing things for you, wants to be in something called a covenant with you. And you have the choice to shamoa tishma'u, to listen to that voice and to voluntarily keep the covenant. And if you do, you are going to be a treasured people. You're going to be a treasured nation to the God of everything and of everyone. Not only that, you are going to be mamlechet kohanim. You're going to be a kingdom of kohanim, of priests. What? And goy kadosh, a nation that is considered kadosh, a nation that is considered set apart, set aside, holy. What? Okay. Already. I love it that already we have hands. Okay. Bert, then Mehmet.
I think what a lot of people forget, to me, the most important word is if. Okay. All of this is conditional and is not God. Our story is not God saying, no matter what, this is what you're going to be. It's an if. And I will not relate that to current politics in Israel.
Or in the United States.
Or in the United States.
Yes, exactly. All right, Mehmet?
Or Turkey for a long time.
Or Turkey.
We've had a dictator for 24 years, so just imagine. I'd like to go back to line 3, where we read, Moshe goes to Elohim. Elohim is plural, right? But then the following line is the Eternal calls to him. What is the Eternal in Hebrew?
Yud He Vav He.
Is it singular?
It's Yud He Vav He.
It's the one, right?
It's the unpronounceable being, isness, wasness, alwaysness, existence. That one.
I read it as a very ignorant Jew. Moshe goes to Elohim, to the gods, but the one calls him. So at that moment he realizes it's not Elohim, Elohims, so to say, but there is one calling.
Beautiful.
So
Mehmet, beautiful reading. Beautiful. Moshe, and Cass wants us to read as ignorant people. He's wanting us to just look at the text. And our temptation is always, of course, to unpack it with all of the midrashim that we know and all of the, subtleties, and that's great. But that's exactly what you just did is what he's asking us to do. It says he goes up to Elohim. You could read the next vav as disjunctive, not conjunctive. You could, because we tend to read it, and the eternal call to him. You could read that as a disjunctive vav, in which case Moshe goes up to Elohim, but Yud He Vav He calls to him. Moshe went up seeking whatever Moshe thinks is God.
That's
God's.
The moment.
And instead, Yud He Vav He answers, I'm about to offer these people a covenant. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Bert?
Building on that, you've pointed out numerous times that these texts were written over a long period of time, and that paganism and existed throughout Jewish history, at least up to it. So we tend to think that, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Jews always believed from Abraham that there was always one God, but we have those two strains. And so another way to read this is that Elohim is that other strain that weaves its way through Jewish history.
Yes. Right? Mehmet, is your hand up again?
Very briefly, to a nation of priests, is that referring to the Egyptians as a nation of priests?
So thank you for pointing that out. This is where
they come from.
I wanted to go to Kohanim next.
The Jews were not a nation of Kohanim, of priests in Egypt, but now they're becoming a nation of priests.
Okay.
So they're being elevated.
Yes. So Cass wants us to listen with the ears of these newly freed slaves. They're being told they're going to be a nation. They're going to be in covenant if they choose to. And they're going to be a nation of priests. Think about what they know about priests. What do they know about priests? People.
Priests rule everything, and on the whole, they're pretty darn mean.
Priests rule everything, and on the whole, they're pretty darn mean. Okay? What else? What do they know about priests?
I don't think they know much.
Pam says they don't know much because they wouldn't have had much contact with the priests. Rachel.
Well, priests perform magic and are powerful. I mean, the only one to defeat them was, finally Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh did. When there was finally an act of magic that they couldn't replicate during the plagues, but they're pretty powerful. That's a pretty, nice, promotion to get from slave to priest. I don't know. I wouldn't kick it, wouldn't kick the priest out of bed for eating crackers.
Right. So they go from being gum on the bottom of Pharaoh's sandal to a nation of priests. What they know from priests, Pam's right, they may not know much, but what they do know is that they are very powerful. Some of them can do magic. They have a direct relationship, at least in their imagination, to the god they serve or the goddess they serve. That makes them pretty important, right? So they're of high status in society. And they have access to a lot of secret stuff that regular Egyptians don't. So they outrank regular Egyptians. Yeah? And even Pharaoh probably had a priestly role vis-a-vis the chief god. We have every reason to believe Pharaoh's, had this kind of special priestly part of their status. And these little peons are being told that's about to be y'all if you keep my covenant. Yes, Mehmet.
And they're not laborers. They're not simple labor as the Jews have been for 400 years. They don't have to do hard work. They don't have to be slaves. They're becoming sophisticated people.
Okay.
That's a promise.
So this, I also want us to read the Mishkan stuff in light of this, because I think you're right, Mehmet. I think the Mishkan is directly tied to this, right? Mm-hmm. It's about their dignity. They're not laboring for Pharaoh anymore. Their next labor will be to build a Mishkan so that Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh may dwell among them and can remind them constantly that they are an Am Kedusha, a holy people, right? Because God can't dwell in the midst of something that's not holy. Okay. We together so far? We good? All right. Do you want to hear from Dr. Cass? All right. Let's hear how he talks about it.
And Moses goes down, tells the people, and the people with one voice say, what he said, we will do. That's the opening. God proposes a covenant, which has to be consented to. Covenant is an astonishing covenant. It's based upon the evidence of what they have seen, what they've seen, what he did to the Egyptians, what they've seen of his providential bringing them to him at this mountain by nurturing them in the wilderness and so on. But having seen that, they now should trust in this new offer that he's making, which will consist in their hearing, hearkening, obeying these commandments and keeping this brit, this covenant. And then there'll be wonderful consequences for them.
Maybe the place to begin to unpack all of this is with that term, brit, covenant. It would stand to reason that this is much more than a law. That is not the right way to understand what this is. What is it?
It's a good question. The term itself means a bond that is established between two parties, very often unequal parties, who, in the absence of this bond, might have absolutely nothing to do with each other. They are not naturally akin. Unlike a contract, which is a purely transactional agreement in which I give you something and you give me something else, and if there's a breach of contract, you can in court sue and be indemnified for the loss. But when the contract is fulfilled, there's no further relation. This is, in fact, an enduring relationship based not simply on mutual advantage, but based upon a relationship of trust, attachment. It requires not just fulfillment of terms of a contract, but requires even more dedication, devotion. It's the difference between marriage and lease. This is an astonishing thing for this group of ex-slaves to be offered, that the Lord God who delivers them offers them the opportunity to be in a permanent relation with him. What it means, they don't yet know, but they're all ears.
And that the promise which is offered is that they are to be transformed into a nation of priests, into a holy people. What is that?
Well, look, I mean, you and I have enough difficulty trying to figure out what it means when we read it in the text. Imagine what these people on the ground might think about this. First of all, by the way, this is the first time that anybody has told them that they are going to be a people among the peoples of the earth. Up until now, they've been the bottom of the bottom in the hierarchy of Egypt, and what they know of themselves, they know only of oppression. But now they're told that the God who is the God of all the nations of the earth sees them as a people equal with the others, not only equal, but possibly in a superior relation, a treasure to the God who is the God of all the earth. What it means to say you will be a kingdom of priests, what they think of it, what we think of it, does it mean that each one is going to be in some kind of priestly relation to God as somehow ministering to him in their daily life? Does it mean that they will be a nation that serves a priestly function to the rest of the world? Does it mean that they're eventually going to be a theocracy governed by priests? Don't know. A holy nation. We want to track this holy nation as we go along because it's absolutely of the essence. A holy nation, the word Kedusha means set apart. Set apart for what? Set apart how? Does it mean that they have a kind of special calling in the world? Does it mean that they are going to aspire to be in a special relation to God and embody in their daily life not just decency and justice, but something beyond that? It's an inspiring vision for the future for people who didn't know they had a future at all. And I can only imagine that in their ignorance of what these terms mean, it nevertheless looks grand, and it looks to them that they've been delivered not only negatively from evil, but they might just have a great role to play in the human story, as if I might editorialize, indeed they have.
What think you? people, Israel. Judith?
I have
And then Bert?
I have a dilemma here with the struggle that Reconstructionism has made with the phrase the chosen people and what we're hearing today.
Why?
Because it indicates what we're hearing is that we are the chosen people.
That's not the language used here.
Okay, explain more, please.
Yes. So the language is that we are to be a nation of priests. It doesn't mean we're better.
But
it doesn't mean we're chosen. It means if we live into this covenantal relationship, we will be priests. Now, what do priests do? What's their job?
They run the show, sort of.
Sort of. What are they supposed to do?
They take care of all the religious. They're judges.
Priests are not judges.
They're intermediaries, Mark says. But also, they have special duties and obligations. They
have special duties and obligations. Yes, they do. They have the obligation to serve on behalf of the people. They are to serve the God, the goddess, and they have obligations and duties. That is the sense that we have here, I believe.
I love Bert's choice of the word if, which I think is so relevant.
Sure.
But I still hear you will be a treasure.
Yes. Every people can be a treasure. This is how we will get there, is keeping this covenant with this particular understanding of what that means. The duties and obligations that
if
entails. The if. Exactly.
Thank you. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a little stronger now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Look, I don't deny that Bahar Banu language is all over the place. I'm not denying language. What I'm saying is, if you look at this text, it's saying what Cass is asking is, what does that mean to them? Like, you will be a nation of priests. What does that mean? Are you going to serve God on behalf of everybody else? Are y'all all going to be priests? In your daily life, are you supposed to serve God the way priests do in Egypt?
Not the same way.
He says we don't know, but imagine that they're told, you are now going to be a nation of priests, a treasured possession.
And first of all, a nation of people.
A nation of people. A nation.
A set-apart nation.
That's already something.
Different. Yeah.
Right? Absolutely.
That's new. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's new. Bert?
I am somewhat troubled, as Judith is. Okay. And since the Jewish tradition encourages discussion and opposite views, I'd like to present kind of an opposite view and say up front that I don't totally believe in this. At least as I understand.
Wait. Stop. What do you mean you don't believe in this? What does that mean?
Oh, no, what I'm about to say. What I'm about to say is not necessarily my position. It's just something that I think of. Okay. And so don't accuse me of this. That's the only, I'm not talking about I don't believe in the text.
Okay.
That is not,
good.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
Look, if one looks at the Peshat and Jewish history, clearly in Jewish history, there was always a sense of more chosenness than if. Or maybe both. Okay, this is a major strain of Judaism. It's totally in the Torah. As Judith has mentioned, it's totally here. In the early 20th century, Jews became increasingly uncomfortable with this as they tried to assimilate, because they were always accused of saying they were superior to everybody else. Some Jews felt this, and I think that if we look at Kaplan in historical context, it's not surprising that he rejected chosenness at that particular point. I think where we are in the 21st century for many Jews is trying to shift this, if you want to apologize for it, move it, give it a different slice so that it doesn't appear to be what a lot of the text and Jewish history clearly says. But as Judith said, I think it remains a challenge for us, because if you, depending about how much chosenness you throw out, you're also throwing out a lot of Jewish history and a lot of what it says in the Torah. So I'm troubled by all of this, and I don't have a solution, but I think to some extent we're trying to rationalize this out of existence.
Okay, so thank you. I grew up in a traditional Jewish setting. Chosenness was a burden.
Mm-hmm.
It was not considered, yes, of course it was considered we had a special relationship with God because of Sinai and blah, 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 blah. But it also was made very clear to us that this was the yoke of heaven that was placed on us. I'm telling you, yes, there's that strain. Yes, definitely we're moving away from it as Reconstructionists. Definitely there's the early 20th century apologetics. Yes. And in a very traditional Jewish setting, it is seen as Ol Malchut Shamayim, the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. The 613 mitzvot are a burden and a privilege. But it's not ever seen as woohoo, like you're better. You got picked for like this easy thing. It's we got picked, and that is really difficult. And yes, it's fulfilling and all of that, but it's not like fairy dust. And now you all are immune from difficulties of life. Susan.
Like, I've always embraced chosenness, even though I would identify as a Reconstructionist, because I think the view of like superiority is what the Christians said we meant by it. And it's never what was meant. It was meant that we are a kingdom of priests. I mean, as a little kid, I thought that the U.S. would fall apart when there was no longer a Jew on the Supreme Court. And by golly, I'm right. It's, I mean, so I still use the old blessing when I come up to the Torah, because for me, us saying we're a chosen people is no different than the DNA saying they're the people, or there being a big pavilion in San Diego for La Raza. Peoples that identify as a people see themselves as the people.
Okay. So
I put a bunch of stuff in chat.
Good. All right. So we
quiet.
have, this is great. So we have lots of different perspectives on the whole chosenness language. I want to remain clear that is not in our text this morning. However apologetic Bert thinks I'm being, Cass is asking us to read what's here. And if I do that, if I step back from all of the Bachar Banu business and even the O Malchut Shamayim business, if I step back from that, it says we're to be a nation of priests. And if we keep the covenant, meaning if you follow laws about justice, equity, compassion, fairness, taking care of the stranger, taking care of the widow, taking care of the orphan, making sure there's a bottom below which nobody falls. If you do that, that is what makes you a treasured people to me. An Am Kadosh to me. And that I can get with, right? The United States is the greatest country in the history of the world when, fill in the blank, we keep the covenant, when we keep the ideals of the founders of this nation, and when we live into the best understanding we can have of how to apply the Constitution to our life today, to allow everyone the pursuit of happiness. I think that's what this is saying. And I'm down with that. And I'm going to go against Cass here and say, this is written by a people who are already in the land and are already successful and are already screwing it up. This is not written by slaves, right? It's not written by Moses. It's not written by God. This is written by people who were in the land and who already were screwing up. That is inspiring to me, in that I feel like that's the moment we're at in America 2026. right? That we have screwed it up. Now, what is the response to that? Our people's response was write this story and try to figure out, how do we keep the covenant? What needs to change? Remember my high holiday sermon about Deuteronomy? What needs to change for us to take seriously being a goy kadosh? What has to change? That's what these stories are coming to ask us and to challenge us to think about. What would it mean for America to be an Am Kadosh? What would it mean for Israel? What would it mean, right, for the Jewish people to be an Am Kadosh and a Mamlechet Kohanim, a kingdom of Kohanim? Yes, Rachel, speak.
What you make me think of is this idea of obligation. And I think the answer to both of those things is keeping in mind that all of this hinges on obligation. And that it's like, we weren't freed from slavery. We were freed to, or freed for. And that means that, and it's just like being a citizen of the United States, right? Freedom is not, I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and, drive on the road whenever, in any reckless way, right? Or fill in the blank. It's, I have an obligation to uphold the, as a citizen to obey laws and uphold, the Constitution and, the Bill of Rights, whatever, and so on and so forth. That it's this notion of duty and obligation, I think, is what you bring me to.
We say it every day in the Shema. Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liyot lachem le'Elohim. I who took you out of Egypt to be for you God. I didn't take you out of Egypt because you deserved it. I didn't take you out of Egypt to have a party. I didn't take you out of Egypt so you could be free. I took you out of Egypt liyot lachem le'Elohim, for y'all to choose to line up with what I stand for and what I demand of you as a nation. That's why I took you out, to give you that choice, because slaves don't have a choice. All right, Alex?
It's interesting. So this covenant, is it truly a covenant from the get-go? People are flawed. They couldn't sustain the covenant. So in all of the ways they were expected to, correct? So is that to me isn't like, oh, we're failing as a people, and we're still continuing to do so. To me, it's almost as if it's embedded in the story. Of course, we're not living up to the covenant because we are people. So
it is
of course, it's
aspirational.
Individually, we can, as individuals, but as a collective, is that really innate to humanity, or can humanity really sustain a covenant like that? It's the push and pull of that.
Right.
And it's almost like we're being set up to fail because we know.
Sort of. But
I mean,
okay. But
I'm not saying,
but I know.
Anyway, so is there always that push and pull, and is that understood universally,
yes.
Or the
and it's aspirational,
right?
It's aspirational that we're supposed to try to uphold our end of the covenant. We're supposed to try. We're not supposed to go up. Well, we screwed it up, so forget America. Like that's done. That project.
I think it's that attunement. We're supposed to try. We're supposed to be attuned and to know that in every aspect in this multidimensional world, it would almost be God-like if we were to be able to uphold all those things. And I'm assuming, again, because I've not learned it in this way, that is there something built into this text, and this is what actually is built into the text. We're humans. This is all the stories. It's going to be the push and pull. We are flawed, and it would be an impossibility almost.
But remember, the point of the covenant is that we are flawed, And so we need laws and rules and agreements about how to behave with each other because we're selfish and jealous and we covet and I want more and it's never enough and I want what you have, not the one that I got. So that's the point of the law, of the covenant, of Torah, is to say, I know y'all are flawed. I made you. So here's what we do with that is we have an agreement that's called a covenant that y'all are supposed to behave according to these laws because you're flawed. Remember, the angels are jealous. To go back to the Midrashic tradition, the angels go to God and say, how could you give your precious Torah to those monkeys? What were you thinking? You gave Torah to humans? Why? It's your precious Torah. They don't, what have you done? And God says, do you all steal? Do y'all covet? Do y'all cheat on your spouses? Do y'all murder? And the angels go, well, of course not. And God's like, then what do you need Torah for? It's because we're flawed.
It's like the lottery. It's like Shirley Jackson. It's like they know how we're going to end up. So this is what's the anchor to keep us.
It's about having these conversations every week.
Right.
It's about the fact that we're opening the text and trying to figure out, okay, what is that demand of me right now, today? Hayom hazeh, this day, as the text says.
Well, it's also, it seems like there are these two paradigms, which is one, like, yes, of course we're flawed, so we have to do the best we can with what, and then there's you should live according to these things. And maybe that's more of is it Judeo-Christian or a Christian paradigm of, well, I guess in some ways it's similar to you are sinners, and so therefore you need to live this life, I don't know.
All right, Alex, did you ever think your children were going to live up to what you hope for them in terms of the example you
I mean,
set
I
for
know
them?
I'm perfect, so I was just expecting perfection,
Right. You did not expect your children to be perfect. That doesn't mean you don't teach them. Just because they're not going to be perfect human beings and they're going to screw up, it doesn't mean you don't teach them. It's because you know they're going to screw up that you teach them so that they know, here's what I should be reaching for. And when they fail, they can identify it. I did not live up to what I know, right, as being an honest, good, compassionate human being. And Mom would not approve of me smacking my brother in the head, which I just did, right? But he knows it's wrong because you taught him. Don't do that.
Well, it's as if I'm in a covenant with my children, especially when they have that mitzvah.
Yes.
And we're there passing down the Torah. We are in a covenant. It is an understanding that you will make mistakes. Hopefully they won't be too big. And we are here in a covenant to support, to shepherd you through.
Correct. That is exactly right. It is a relationship of love. Teaching for us is about love. You teach children knowing they're going to fail sometimes. But you don't stop loving them and stop, encouraging them or giving them rules to follow because you know they're going to screw up.
And as do we, as we continue as adults to screw up.
That's right.
And hopefully not too big,
That's right. Robin?
I was just thinking about what the last speaker talked about, but I mean, is a covenant inherently conditional? Because I don't feel like if it's inherently conditional, I don't feel like we have that with our children. I mean, we're not happy with behavior, but I don't think too many of us would cast them out if they don't follow what with them. So I'm just thinking, is that like a little different kind of relationship than one we have with this covenant with God?
So I do believe there are parents who look at their children and as adults and say, you're not Segula to me. You're not precious. I'm devastated. We are estranged. And that's the reality. That's the truth. It happens. Casting out is a whole different whatever. Definitely that is there in our Torah texts for sure. But I do believe there's what this condition is if you accept the covenant and try to figure out what that means in every situation you're supposed to do, if you strive for that, you will be an Am Segula to me. Not if you achieve it, not if you're perfect, if you keep my covenant.
Which is 2 steps forward and 1 step back sometimes. But
yes. Right? And they're very painful things that happen between people when they feel like that the covenant's been breached. I'm dealing with it right now with one family, like that. It's very, very painful. You all know my history with my mother. I was estranged from my mother for years. So it's all right. So closing thoughts, anybody?
Yeah. Just think of all those boys and girls who grew up wanting to be artists instead of doctors and lawyers.
Oh, that's tough.
The
Jewish family. That's tough. Like,
right. Who cares who you love?
What is the joke?
To be a doctor.
According to Judaism, when does life begin?
At 30.
When they graduate medical school. Mehmet, that was supposed to be funny.
He looks so sad.
I know. Mehmet looks so serious over there.
I was thinking of gay men and lesbians and transgender and all the tribe in conservative settings. I mean, I'm blessed to be a gay man with loving parents, but a lot of us don't see that. So I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
So you're not Am Segula, so you're not included in the warming circle of family and all of that. You're not being given the money or the opportunities that just straight couples and kids get and all of that. So I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. It's so true, right? It's you're not Segula. Not only that, but we're going to say Kaddish for you, right? You're dead to us. So
I know you will say Kaddish for me, so that counts.
But only
100 years from now, 100 years from now, I'd be honored. All right, a good study.
Staying here.
A good study. Thank you so much, as always, for your attention and participation. And it's so good. It's my favorite hour of the week.
You've been listening to Rabbi Amy Bernstein's Friday morning Torah study from Kehillat Israel in Pacific Palisades, California. For more information, go to our website, www.ourki.org.